My name is Adam Cortez, and I'm 32 years old. Growing up in Dallas, I've always felt like the odd one out. My family's wealthy, and they've always expected perfection, especially from my older brother, Julian, who's the golden child. He's always had everything handed to him, the right career, the right friends, and the right connections. Meanwhile, I've spent my life trying to carve out a place for myself, feeling like I'm always a step behind. I took a different path, moved out, bought my own house, but no matter what I do, I never seem to measure up. So when I finally bought this house, I thought maybe it'd be my redemption. But that's when I found out the truth. The house that was supposed to be mine never really was. And now, I'm beginning to wonder if I've ever truly belonged here at all. The day I found out what my family had done to me, everything changed. And I still don't know if I'll survive the fallout. The house was supposed to be mine. For years, I had fought for this moment, fought against the expectations, fought against the whispers that I wasn't good enough. When I finally signed the papers, I thought it was a victory, a turning point. It was a symbol of everything I had achieved on my own, away from the shadow of my family. But now, standing in the doorway of the living room, I felt nothing but dread. The floorboards creaked beneath my feet, and the smell of fresh paint lingered in the air. I had paid for this place with my own savings. My hard work. But as I stepped inside, everything that felt solid a few days ago suddenly seemed like an illusion. I grabbed my phone and dialed my mother. Isabella. She picked up on the second ring. Adam, her voice was cold, clipped. No warmth, no excitement. What's up? I need to talk to you about the house. I thought you and Dad were coming over this weekend. There was a pause. A silence that lasted too long. Then, as if she had rehearsed it, she replied, "The whole family went last week. It's already taken care of." "What do you mean? Taken care of?" My voice rose without meaning to, the disbelief slipping through. "You weren't around," she continued, the casualness in her tone a slap to the face. "We handled it. You were busy." My head spun. I felt the words slam into me. I could barely comprehend what she was saying. Taken care of? I hadn't even been told. Not even a single mention. The house that was supposed to be mine, the house I'd fought so hard for, was already in their hands. The silence stretched out between us. My heart was pounding in my chest. I swallowed hard, trying to keep the shaking from my voice. "What exactly does that mean, Mom?" She sighed, the sound of her disinterest nearly unbearable. "We'll talk when you get here. I'm sure you're overreacting." I ended the call before I could say anything more. My hand was trembling as I lowered the phone. I stood there in the middle of the room, staring at the freshly painted walls, the empty windowsills, the echo of my footsteps in the silent house. My house. But not really. I could already feel it, the familiar weight of being sidelined in my own life, like a ghost watching my family pull the strings from the shadows. But this time, something had changed. I wasn't going to let it go. Not this time. The reality hit hard. My mother had been lying to me. And what was worse, she had been in control of it all along. I grabbed the papers from the table, the deed, the transfer agreement. Something was off. The signatures. The dates. Everything was wrong. A knot tightened in my stomach. My signature. But it wasn't mine. I called my lawyer, my fingers typing out the words before I could even think. "Something's wrong with the deed. It's been altered. Get to the bottom of this." I didn't know what I was hoping for. Maybe someone would tell me I was overreacting. That it was a mistake. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just a mistake. This was deliberate. I wasn't just fighting for a house. I was fighting for control. Suddenly, the phone rang. A text message from an unknown number. "This isn't what it seems. And you're already too deep to back out now." My throat tightened. It was from someone who knew more than I wanted to know. Someone who was watching me, waiting for the next move. I wasn't sure how long I'd been standing there, frozen. But I knew one thing for sure. The walls I had built around my life were starting to crumble. And the only way out was to tear it all down. To be continued. The message from the unknown number hit me like a punch in the stomach. This isn't what it seems. And you're already too deep to back out now. I stared at the screen, my fingers gripping the phone so tight it hurt. The realization was slow, crawling up my spine. I wasn't just battling for a house. I was battling for my life. My family's secrets were far deeper than I could have ever imagined, and now they were coming to the surface. I couldn't sit still. My brain was racing, every thought tangled in a web of lies and betrayals. I knew I had to find the truth, but how could I? Every corner of my life had been manipulated. Even the house, the one thing I thought was mine, wasn't. It was just another piece in a game I hadn't been told I was playing. I tried to think, tried to focus, but the world around me felt like it was closing in. My phone buzzed again, another message. This one was from Elena, the family lawyer. Meet me. I have information you need to see. It's urgent. I hesitated. She'd been evasive before. I wasn't sure if I could trust her, but I didn't have many options left. Grabbing my jacket, I left the house, the empty walls echoing my footsteps. The air outside was cool, but it didn't help the tightness in my chest. I drove through the streets of Dallas, the weight of the situation pressing down with every mile. I couldn't escape the feeling that someone was watching me. Every car that passed seemed to slow, every shadow in the alley a potential threat. I pulled into a quiet cafe, one of those places that looks like it could be hiding secrets. Elena was sitting at a corner table, her expression tight, her eyes scanning the room like she was expecting someone. When she saw me, she gave a small, nervous smile. Adam, she said, her voice low. You don't know the whole story. Your family, they're not who you think they are. I sat down across from her, heart racing. What do you mean? What's going on? She hesitated, glancing around before speaking again. It's not just the house. It's bigger. Your family's been involved in something illegal for years, money laundering, real estate scams. I was part of it. I'm not proud of it, but I'm trying to make things right. I couldn't breathe. My mind raced, but I couldn't process her words. You're saying my family, my mother, has been running scams? Elena's face darkened. Not just your mother. Your whole family. The house, Adam, it's tied to a bigger operation. And I think they've been using you as part of their cover. I felt the world shift under my feet. I couldn't trust anyone anymore. Not even Elena. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, my voice shaking. What's your angle? I don't have one, she replied quickly. I was just following orders. But I can't do it anymore. You have to understand I'm not the only one who's been lying to you. Suddenly, the door of the cafe swung open, and a man walked in. He looked ordinary, too ordinary, and yet something about him made my skin crawl. His eyes met mine, and a chill ran down my spine. Elena's face went pale as she stood up. That's him, she whispered, her voice shaking. Rafael Santana's right-hand man. Before I could respond, Elena grabbed my wrist, pulling me up from the table. Come with me. Now. We pushed through the door, but I was already too late. The man's eyes locked onto me. My instincts kicked in. Where are we going? I asked, my voice low and tense. To the back, she said, dragging me toward the alley. They know you're here. They'll be following us any minute. A black SUV screeched to a halt behind us. My heart dropped. I turned to run, but Elena grabbed my arm, pulling me into the shadows. My breathing was loud in my ears as we crouched low, the sound of footsteps echoing in the distance. We couldn't stay here. Listen to me, Elena said, her face close to mine. You don't know what you're dealing with. Rafael is dangerous. He's ruthless. Your family has made a deal with him, one you don't even know about. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but there was no time. The footsteps were getting closer. A car door slammed. I could hear voices. My mind raced. Elena, who is he? What does he want from me? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she handed me a file, pushing it into my hands. The weight of it felt like a burden, but I had no choice but to take it. Everything you need is in there, she whispered. But you have to trust me. I'm helping you. Get away from your family. Now. Before I could ask another question, she shoved me toward the street and disappeared into the shadows. The file in my hand felt like a ticking time bomb. I ran. Every step felt heavy, my mind spinning as I tried to process everything. Rafael Santana, money laundering, my own family involved in criminal activity, it all seemed too surreal. But the deeper I went, the more I realized I was caught in something I couldn't escape. I didn't know who to trust. I didn't know if I could trust anyone anymore. But I had no choice. I had to find out the truth. And if I didn't, I might lose everything. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, somewhere, was watching me. Waiting. To be continued. The weight of the file felt heavier than ever in my hand. I stood in the middle of my apartment, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound. I opened it carefully, heart pounding. Inside were pages of contracts, emails, transfer documents. But there was something buried deep, something I hadn't expected. A name. Rafael Santana. I ran my finger over the name, my mind racing. The man Elena had warned me about, the same one my mother had been involved with. I couldn't breathe for a moment. Everything I had known about my family, about the house, was unraveling, and now this was the truth. You've been a fool, Adam, I whispered to myself, staring at the papers. Everyone's been lying to you. I snapped the folder shut, my thoughts scrambling to piece together the chaos that had been my life. This wasn't just a dispute over property, it was bigger. Much bigger. The text messages, the phone calls. My family had played me. They had been using me all along. I thought back to the moment my mother had so coldly dismissed me, as if I was just another pawn in her game. It wasn't just about the house, it was about control. Power. Everything they had done, every detail, had been meticulously planned out. I wasn't just an outsider, I was a part of something I never agreed to. A part of their dirty business. I needed answers. I needed to find him, Rafael Santana. If he was behind this, then everything had a purpose. The doorbell rang, sharp and sudden, cutting through the tension in the room. My heart skipped. No one knew where I lived. I rushed to the peephole, my stomach tightening. There, standing outside, was Julian. My brother. My blood. But after what had just happened, I wasn't sure if I could trust him anymore. Not after everything he'd kept from me. I opened the door, trying to mask the anger bubbling in my chest. What do you want? Julian's face was pale, his eyes shifting uncomfortably. We need to talk. It's about the house, he said quietly, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. His usual confidence was gone, replaced by a hesitation I hadn't seen before. I didn't say anything, but the tension in the air was thick. He sat down on the couch, his eyes avoiding mine. I closed the door slowly, my mind already racing. This could be the confrontation I'd been waiting for, or it could be another lie. I know what's been going on, I said, keeping my voice steady, but the words felt like they were being ripped from me. I know about the house, Julian. I know about everything. He flinched, his hands clenching into fists. What exactly do you know? I threw the folder on the table in front of him. I know about Rafael Santana. About the money laundering. I know about you. He stared at the file, his face paling even further. You don't understand, he muttered, looking up at me, his eyes desperate. This was never meant for you. It was always about protecting you. I felt the blood drain from my face. Protecting me? By lying to me for years? By keeping me in the dark about everything? Julian's face hardened. I wasn't the one pulling the strings, Adam. It was Mom. You think this is the first time? She's been working with people like him, Raphael, since before you were even born. You've always been a part of this, whether you knew it or not. I shook my head, disbelief washing over me. You let this happen. You stood by while they used me. Used my name. It wasn't like that, Julian said, his voice low, barely above a whisper. I never wanted you to get pulled into this. But there are things you don't know. Things about her. The air between us grew thick, the truth hanging in the balance. What are you talking about? I pressed. What things? Julian's eyes flickered, his voice barely audible. You're not just part of this operation. You're the key to it. You were always meant to be. You're the one who'll hold everything together, Adam. You just don't realize it yet. I stared at him, my heart pounding in my ears. What the hell are you talking about? But before he could answer, the sound of a car screeching to a halt outside interrupted us. Julian's eyes widened. They're here. I froze, every instinct screaming at me to run. But it was too late. The door burst open with a crash, and men in dark suits stormed into the apartment, their movements swift and practiced. I barely had time to react before one of them grabbed me by the arm, yanking me toward the door. I struggled, adrenaline kicking in, but it was useless. Another man shoved Julian aside, forcing him to the ground. Get off me! I shouted, trying to break free. But the grip on my arm tightened, and I felt the cold sting of a gun pressed to my ribs. Julian was still on the floor, watching, his face drained of color. Let go of him, Julian said quietly, his voice eerily calm. It's no use. They've got you now. It's too late. What the hell is going on? I yelled, but no one answered. They pulled me out of the apartment, out into the hallway. The metallic scent of sweat and fear filled my nose as the elevator doors closed. I was being dragged to an unknown fate, each second stretching longer than the last. My chest tightened. I was trapped. The elevator stopped, and the doors opened. The men shoved me out, into a cold, dimly lit parking garage. I was surrounded. Where are you taking me? I demanded, but the only response was the sound of footsteps echoing off the concrete. Suddenly, the figure in front of me stepped into the light. It was Raphael Santana. His eyes were cold, calculating. You've been asking too many questions, Adam. Now, it's time to give us some answers. To be continued. I didn't know where they were taking me. My mind raced, trying to find a way out, but the men who surrounded me in the dimly lit garage seemed to know exactly where I was going. I had been caught in a trap, and now, it was too late to back out. The SUV doors slammed shut behind me, and the engine roared to life, its sound vibrating in my chest. My pulse was pounding in my ears as I sat there, handcuffed to the seat, the cold metal digging into my wrists. I kept telling myself to stay calm, to think, but every thought was drowned by the chaos of the moment. Don't make this harder than it has to be, a low voice said from the front seat. The man driving didn't look back, but his words sent a chill down my spine. I had no idea who they were, or how far this conspiracy reached. But I knew one thing, if I didn't figure it out soon, I'd be buried under it forever. The SUV pulled into a gated compound. The gates clicked shut behind us with an eerie finality. We parked in an underground parking garage, and I was shoved out of the car. A feeling of cold dread washed over me. They were waiting for me. As they led me through the narrow, concrete corridors, the stench of stale air and sweat hung in the air. My heart beat faster, each step heavier than the last. I was breathing shallowly, trying to control the panic that clawed at my throat. I had to stay focused. We stopped in front of a thick metal door, and one of the men knocked twice before pushing it open. Inside, I was met by a dimly lit room filled with monitors and screens, surveillance cameras, all monitoring various points in the city. The place reeked of power and control. In the center of the room, sitting in a leather chair with his back to me, was Rafael Santana. I hadn't seen him in person before, but I had heard enough. He was the man behind everything. The man who had built his empire through lies, manipulation, and violence. And now, he was the one who controlled my fate. "You've been asking too many questions, Adam," he said without turning around. "And you know what happens when people dig too deep." I swallowed, trying to keep my voice steady. "What do you want from me?" He turned slowly, his eyes cold, calculating. A slight smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. "What I want, Adam, is simple. You're part of this now. You're in too deep to walk away. You've been asking about things that don't concern you." "You're wrong," I said, my voice low, trying to hide the tremor in it. "I don't know anything. I just want out." Raphael laughed, a sound that was anything but comforting. "You think you have a choice? You think you can just walk away from all this? No. You've always been part of the plan, whether you realized it or not." My stomach churned. "What plan?" He stood up, his towering figure casting a long shadow across the room. "Your mother, your brother, everyone has their part to play. And now, you've played yours." Suddenly, I understood. The house. The trust. The signatures. It had all been a carefully orchestrated act to pull me into this web, to use me as a pawn in their game. But why? What was I really being forced into? "You think you can use me?" I asked, the bitterness in my voice cutting through the tension in the room. "What's the end game?" Raphael leaned forward, his gaze unwavering. "The end game, Adam, is control. Control of everything. Your family's money, your inheritance, your future. We've been building this for years, and you're the final piece." It felt like a slap across my face. My family had been using me, playing me like a fool. They hadn't just betrayed me, they had set me up for this. I couldn't breathe. I needed to think. I couldn't let this man get the better of me. He was manipulating everything, but I had to stay sharp. There had to be a way out. "I'm not a part of your game," I said, the words coming out stronger than I felt. "You'll never control me." Raphael's eyes darkened. "You don't have a choice. The moment you signed that deed, the moment you agreed to everything they told you, you were already in. Now, you'll do what we say, or you'll disappear. Simple as that." I clenched my fists. "You can't intimidate me. I'll fight back. I swear to God, I will." "You're already fighting," he said, his voice cold. "The fight started when you first asked the wrong questions. Now it's too late. You've crossed the line." I tried to steady my breath, every muscle in my body screaming to fight back, to push against everything they were trying to do. But the truth was clearer than ever now. I was caught. No matter how much I wanted to deny it, I was trapped in their web. The walls were closing in, and all I could do was wait for the next move. I was out of time. I needed to act fast. "Don't think you can control me forever," I spat. "I'll make sure this all comes out. You'll pay for this." Raphael smiled, but it wasn't a smile of triumph. It was a smile of a man who knew he had already won. "We'll see," he said simply, before turning to his men. "Take him to the room." I didn't struggle as they dragged me away. Part of me was too numb to feel anything, but the rest of me was planning my escape. I didn't know how yet, but I would find a way. I wasn't going to let them control me. Not now. Not ever. To be continued. I was shoved into a dimly lit room, the door slamming behind me with a finality that echoed in the pit of my stomach. My hands were still bound, but the adrenaline pumping through my veins drowned out the sting of the ropes. I was supposed to be in control. I was supposed to have answers. But all I had now was uncertainty. The room was small, barely furnished, a single bulb dangling from the ceiling, flickering sporadically. It felt like a holding cell, but there was no one to interrogate me. No cold, clinical officials. Just shadows and silence, the kind of silence that makes you feel like you're already dead. I paced back and forth, the walls closing in. Every second that passed felt like a minute. Every minute like an hour. Time stretched, broken only by the occasional clink of a distant door opening. There was someone in the building, someone who was watching me, waiting for me to break. I had no idea what Raphael wanted from me, but I knew I couldn't stay here for long. The thought made my heart race faster. My mind was clouded with anger and fear, and there was no way out unless I could figure out how to make a move. Everything I thought I knew was a lie. And now, they controlled the truth. I had to find a way to take control back. A door creaked open behind me. I spun, my breath catching in my throat. A man entered, his face shadowed, but I recognized him immediately, Julian. My brother. The one person I thought I could trust, the one person I thought would have my back. But his presence here, at this moment, made me question everything. He stepped inside, his eyes not meeting mine. They said I should talk to you, he said, his voice low. It sounded rehearsed. I didn't want this, Adam. I never did. I clenched my fists, a wave of frustration rising in my chest. You never wanted this? I spat. You never wanted me to be a part of your game? You lied to me, Julian. You let me walk straight into this mess. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. You think I had a choice? I'm not the one calling the shots, Adam. You never knew what we were really up against. I'm done with the excuses, I snapped. I want the truth, Julian. Now. You've been a part of this from the beginning. Every step of the way. Julian looked like he was fighting something inside him. I saw his jaw clench, the muscles in his neck tightening. Finally, he spoke. You're not just involved, Adam. You're the key. This whole thing, the house, the money, it's all about you. What the hell are you talking about? My voice cracked with disbelief. Julian didn't respond immediately. He just stood there, staring at the ground. I was about to shout at him again when he looked up, his eyes meeting mine for the first time. You were always meant to play your part, Adam, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The house wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The weight of his words hit me like a freight train. I took a step back, my heart pounding. What part? What the hell does that mean? Julian's face hardened. You're the one who holds it all together. The trust, the business. You're the final piece. You always were. I shook my head, unable to make sense of his words. You're telling me this was all planned? That I was just some pawn in your game? It's bigger than that, he said, his voice growing quieter. It's not just about the house. It's about control. About power. And you're the only one who can hold it all. My head spun. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you warn me? Julian looked pained. I tried, Adam. But you were never supposed to know the full story. The family, Raphael, they have everything under control. You were just a piece in the puzzle. But now that you're involved, he trailed off, as though he couldn't bear to finish. I could feel the rage building inside me, threatening to spill over. I stepped toward him. You've been lying to me. Using me. All for what? Money? Power? He flinched, and I saw a flicker of guilt pass through his eyes. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by the cold, calculating look I had come to associate with our family. You don't understand, Julian said, his tone defensive. I didn't want any of this for you. But it's too late now. You're in it, and there's no going back. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the hallway. The door to the room burst open, and a group of men in black suits stepped inside. They weren't there for Julian, they were there for me. One of them grabbed me by the arm, pulling me toward the door. My heart raced. My instincts screamed at me to fight back, to resist. But I had nothing. No weapon. No leverage. Only the truth I had just learned, and it wasn't enough to save me. "Where are you taking me?" I demanded, struggling to break free. Julian didn't say anything. He didn't even look at me as they dragged me out of the room. I was a prisoner in my own life, a pawn to be moved and sacrificed at will. The hallways blurred as they pushed me forward, the echo of my footsteps filling the air. The metallic taste of fear coated my tongue. They weren't taking me to safety. They weren't going to give me answers. They were taking me to the heart of the operation, the place where everything would come together. The place where I would learn exactly how deep this conspiracy went. And I wasn't sure I could survive the truth. To be continued. The walls of the underground facility felt like they were closing in on me. I was trapped in a nightmare of my own making, a puppet tangled in strings I never knew existed. The sound of my own breathing was the only thing that kept me grounded as I was shoved into a cold, dim room. They had taken everything from me. My house. My family. My sense of control. And now, they were taking my future. Rafael Santana stood across the room, watching me with that same chilling gaze, his face impassive. His presence was suffocating. "You're finally understanding your role, Adam. You're a part of this now, whether you like it or not. Your name, your inheritance, it's all tied up in this." His voice was smooth, but there was a coldness behind it, a promise of something far darker. "I never wanted this," I spat, my chest tight with anger. "You've used me from the start. You've destroyed everything I've built." Raphael's lips curled into a small smile. "I didn't destroy anything. You were always part of the plan, Adam. You were born into it. You just didn't realize it until now." I clenched my fists, the weight of the situation settling heavily on my shoulders. I was a pawn in a game I hadn't even known was being played. My family, my own blood, had been orchestrating this. And now, I was the last piece they needed. "You've already made your choice," Raphael said, taking a step closer, his voice cold but certain. "You're in this with us now. There's no going back. You can join us, accept your place, or you can resist. But resistance comes with a price." My mind raced, the options spinning in my head. Join him? Play along? How could I? How could I be part of something like this? But the thought of what might happen if I refused, what they'd do to me, to my family, kept me from acting on my first instinct. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. "You think I'll just roll over and accept this?" I said, my voice trembling with defiance. "You think I'll let you control me forever?" Raphael's smile faltered, just for a moment. "It's not about control, Adam. It's about survival. And you'll learn that soon enough." The door slammed open behind me, cutting off any response I might have had. I spun around, my heart jumping into my throat. It was Julian, standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable. His hands were in his pockets, and he looked almost bored by the scene. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice hoarse with frustration. "What part of this are you playing?" Julian's eyes flicked to Raphael before returning to me. "I'm not the enemy, Adam. I never was." He took a step forward, his voice softer now. "You don't know the whole story." "I don't know the whole story?" I barked. "You've been lying to me, Julian. You let me walk right into this. Listen to me." Julian's tone was urgent now, his voice carrying a note of desperation. "They've used both of us. But you don't have to follow the same path I did. You can get out. You can still turn this around. But you have to make a choice." A choice. The weight of the word hit me like a ton of bricks. What choice did I really have? I had been drawn into this web by my own family, manipulated, lied to. My options felt like illusions. But what if I could still break free? What if I could take control for once? What are you trying to say? I asked, my voice tight with suspicion. That I can just walk away? After everything? Julian shook his head. No. I'm saying you still have a chance. But only if you trust me. Trust me to help you get out of this. Raphael stepped forward, his presence looming over us both. There's no escaping this, Adam. You're already in too deep. I felt the walls close in even tighter. There was a deep fear in me now, the fear that I was running out of time, running out of options. My heart was pounding in my chest, each beat faster than the last. But through the fear, something else surfaced, determination. I wasn't going to let them take everything. I turned to Julian. If you want to help me, then help me now. Get me out of here. The look in Julian's eyes flickered, as if he was weighing the decision. He finally nodded, stepping closer. I can get you out. But once we leave, there's no turning back. They'll come after us, Adam. Hard. I don't care, I said, my voice steady. I'm done with this. I'm done with them. Julian reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out a small key. He tossed it to me. That'll get you out. But you have to move fast. Without waiting for a response, he turned and walked toward the exit, disappearing into the shadows. I stood there, the key in my hand, my heart racing with the weight of what was happening. I knew this was it. This was my shot. As I approached the door, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway. I wasn't sure if I was being followed, but I didn't have time to look. I had to move now. I unlocked the door quickly, the click of the lock echoing in the silence. I ran. I didn't know if it would be enough. I didn't know if I was running from the truth or running toward it. But I knew this, for the first time in my life, I was in control. No one could tell me who I was or what I was supposed to do. I was no longer a pawn. And the final choice was mine. To be continued.